All right, cool. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So on my screen, I have SkySlope open, and I also have Zip Forms open. So I'm going to kind of jump back and forth just because most of you are probably or should be using Zip Forms to access all of your forms and to kind of write out your contracts. But then when it comes to the e-signature part of things, that's when you're going to jump into SkySlope and start messing around with DigiSign. So first things first, I just kind of want to jump into DigiSign. So it's going to be this icon here on the right side. And when you get into DigiSign, it's going to show you, it kind of reminds you of like a little email system in itself. So you have your drafts, which is anything that you've started to create as far as signatures to send out, but you have not hit send on. You have your sents, which I guess I don't have any in here right now, but that would be anything that you've sent that maybe was not signed yet or signed by part of the parties, but not everybody. So on here, I'll show you in a little bit once we get one sent out, kind of how you can resend that or edit the envelope if you need to. And then we have, of course, the completed documents. So completed, it's going to show you what documents you have sent and have been signed. And it'll show you who the recipients are when you sent them. And you can actually click on this to view the document itself. Now, when we go into kind of the actual DigiSign process, you'll have a few options. So this will kind of keep track of your completed documents, but the actual signed documents themselves will go to one of two places. So it'll either go to one of your active transactions in SkySlope if you link it up at the beginning, or it'll go over to your working documents, which is kind of the place where any document that doesn't necessarily have a home will kind of sit until you create a transaction in SkySlope and move everything over to that transaction. You have templates in here, so you're able to create your own templates. This would just be signature templates. At an office level, we did create some already, so you'll probably click into here and you'll see all the ones that I've gone in and created and shared with you. So if you want to get crazy and create your own, you're more than welcome to, or you can just use the ones that we've already created for you. So first things first, I kind of just wanted to walk through creating a DigiSign signature envelope. So on each of these screens, whether you're in the draft mode or sent or completed, there is a green button here on the right that says new envelope. And so all you have to do is click that button, and then it's going to kind of walk you through setting up your DigiSign envelope. So this is the first step. It's always going to ask you, do you want to link this document, this signed document, to an active transaction that you already have in SkySlope, or do you want to hit no property, which essentially means you just haven't added anything into SkySlope yet for that transaction. So a lot of the times you're going to probably hit no property first, and that is only because, like, if you're working with buyers, for example, or you're going out on a listing appointment and then they say they want to sign it later, you're not going to have that kind of finalized contract yet. So most of the time you're going to put everything into no property, and then we'll kind of add the documents over to your active file once it's built out. So for the first example, we're just going to jump straight into it, and we're going to hit no property. And then this is where it's going to ask you for the documents that you want to have signed. So that's why I kept my zip form open. So up at the top left, I'm just going to jump over to my zip form screen. And then on here, I've already gone in and written out my contracts just because I didn't think you guys would want to sit and watch me do that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my buyer's agency agreement. So I have it all filled out. You can switch between, if your screen doesn't look like this in Zip Forms, there's a little button on the right. So you can switch from grid view to list view, whatever's easier. But I'm just going to go ahead and take this buyer agency, hit this little drop down arrow, and I'm going to hit download. And so then I can click to download this PDF, and it is going to sit right here at the bottom of my screen. So I can close this out, and then I'm going to jump back over to DigiSign. And you'll notice my download is still down here at the bottom left corner, and I can drag and drop that file into my document section. And so I have my document here, buyer's agency, and you can do multiple documents if you want to. I'm just going to do one so you can kind of see it simple and clear. But you have your buyer's agency agreement, and then on the right side here, this is where you're going to link up and select a template. So you'll know that you're matching the correct document because they'll have the same name on them. So buyer agency or whatever you have the document labeled as. So to choose my template, I just hit choose template, and this little window is going to pop up. Most of the time, now I was testing this out earlier, and for some reason it wasn't going through and filtering it, so that's okay. We will hit choose template, and we're just going to scroll down until we find the one that we need. Most of the time you can just type in up at the top and it will filter through all the different templates for you to choose from. So just bear with me a second. There we go. Okay, so buyer agency agreement. So with all of these templates, you'll notice that there's a one buyer, two buyer, one seller, two seller option. So just whatever is closest to what you need, just select that. So for this one, I'm just going to do a buyer's agency agreement, one buyer. And so I can just hit apply. For some weird reason, every time you hit apply, it bumps that template up to the very top. So you can just double check that it's the correct one because it'll have the red remove button next to the template. So once you have your template selected, just hit done. And you can always go back in and remove the template, of course. And then we're going to hit next. So after we upload the document and apply our templates, it's going to ask, who do you want to be signing this document? So if you're using a template, it's most likely going to automatically fill in. Obviously, if you're a signature needed on the document, you're going to be checked here, and then also your client's name. So you can go ahead. I'm just going to put in my name for this, so I don't send this to anybody. But you put in your buyer's name. If the property is linked to an active SkySlope transaction, then the purchaser or the seller or whomever you're working with should pop up automatically. Okay, so I have myself and my one buyer. And so you can go in and add in a signer group as well. And so what that means is essentially who's going to sign the document first, second, third. You can rearrange the order of the signers. And so I'm going to hit add signer group, and then I want my client to sign the document first, and then I'm going to sign off on it second, just so that I can make sure that they're not putting anything weird in there that I don't necessarily agree with. And of course you can add as many signer groups as you need to. So if you had 3 people on the contract or 4 people, you just keep adding them. You can put them in order, or you can just leave all the clients to sign 1, 2, 3, 4, and then have yourself as the number 5. And then from there, we're going to hit next. And then essentially it's bringing you to your document. So since we chose the templates, the signature spots are already going to be on there. So you can just scroll down and verify that everything looks correct. So you notice you have under buyer's initials, I put myself, so Sarah Robertson. If for whatever reason you needed to change that, there's a little drop down. But if everything looks good, you can just leave it. And then under agent initials, we have TS. I think that's training Sarah. So that would be, yep, training Sarah. That would be your initials as the agent. And so again, you can really just scroll through to make sure that everything is in the correct spot. Additionally, if you needed to maybe add something, so maybe under this additional provision section, you do have the option of adding in any of these little blocks up at the top. So maybe here, excuse me, you wanted to do a writable section, which essentially just means that you're able to write into the document, and you wanted to let your client, I don't know, for whatever reason, you wanted to let your client add that in. You click writable, and you can click, I'll show you one more time, you click writable, and then wherever you want that to go, and then of course you can click and drag this text box anywhere onto your document. And you can also resize it, whatever you need to do. And so once you have that there, of course, if you're adding in kind of like a custom block, you want to make sure that you're assigning it to the correct person. So if you as the agent want to sign it, then just make sure that you select your name. If you want your client to be the one to fill that information out, then make sure you put your client's name on there. Does that make sense? And so again, you add in your little custom bit, and then you keep going through and making sure that all your signatures are in the right spot. So if everything looks good, up at the top, there is a send button. So you can just go ahead and hit send, and this little pop-up window will show. And so really what that is just what do you want your email to your client to be? So if you wanted to say, please sign, buyer's agency, or whatever it is, and then you wanted to put a little message to them, you're more than welcome to. I will say that if you just hit send, the email comes through pretty clear. It'll say your name has sent you a document to review and sign, and then it just gives them a button to click to review and sign the document. So they keep it pretty simple. If you've ever used like DigiSign or anything like that, I'll show you guys what it looks like, but they essentially choose their font, and then they walk through the document and sign all the different fonts. So if everything looks good, I'm gonna hit send. Woo, that was easy. And then we're gonna hit done. So I want to take a second and see if anyone has any questions on kind of what we've covered so far. So we walked through, we created an envelope, and we sent out a document that was not linked to anything in SkySlope so far. Looks good. I'm going to check chat.
Sarah?
Yeah.
When you did the writable section, I'm assuming that you'd have to make that, for the most part, writable for whoever signs it first. So whoever signs it afterward will see what's in there.
Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah, so that's a good point. I was going to go through and do like a price change so you guys could see what that looks like. And yes, so you do have to be cautious of who's signing in what order if you're adding kind of custom fields like that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? Okay. Alrighty. So next I wanted to kind of walk through and essentially do the same process, but link it to a property that's already in SkySlope. So same concept, you're going to go over to the right side and hit new envelope. And then this time I have a whole list of all the different transactions that I have in my account. So pretty much all I'm going to do is say, okay, this 5424 Sharon View Road, I want to go ahead and link this document to this transaction so that once everybody has signed it, it's essentially just going to go and drop that document in the document section, which is right next to your checklist in SkySlope. So I'm going to hit select. And then because I have linked it to an already existing transaction, it's going to show me all the documents that I already have in that transaction. So if you needed to kind of make adjustments or you needed to re-sign something, you can definitely do that just by selecting one of these documents. But just for this example, I'm going to go ahead and pull another document from my zip form so you guys can see what that looks like. So again, I'm going to pop over to zip forms here on the left. And I am going to pull up, what was it? Oh, my lead-based paint. So let's say this transaction is already under contract, everything's good. I'm just kind of signing all the final documents and things like that. So I have my lead-based paint filled out. I am, again, clicking this little download arrow, and I'm hitting the download button. And I'm clicking to download to PDF. So again, it's going to sit, at least on my computer, I have like a PC, so it sits down here in the download section. If for whatever reason yours doesn't show up down here, you can usually just find it under your downloads on your computer. So I'm going to go ahead and take this document, and it's going to put it right here at the top for me. So again, matching up the name of the document to the name over here on the right side, just in case you do have multiple documents that you're signing. You can choose the template. I'm going to try it and see if this will filter. Yay, okay. So I have my lead-based paint for North Carolina, and I'm going to again do one buyer. So I'm going to hit apply. Again, you notice it pops it to the top for some reason, and then I'm going to hit done. So I have my template on here. I have my document. I'm going to hit next. And then again, I have my one buyer. Oh, it doesn't have this address in there. So I will put, that's my dad's name. Bobby Buyer. Okay, so we have Bobby Buyer and his email address, and that is the only person that needs to sign this document. So we can leave him out of this. Oh, yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry. While you're still on this screen,
yeah,
I'm missing the difference between the document on the left and the template on the right.
Oh yeah, here, I'll go back. So the document on the left is just your actual document that you've uploaded. So these are all of your uploads here. So I just pulled this lead-based paint from my ZipForm account. Ooh, no. And then on the right side is just where you're applying your templates. And so it's just showing you, like, if I had multiple documents, so say I clicked this listing agreement, it would give me an option, on the right to also add a template for my listing agreement. And same thing with my mineral oil and gas. And so essentially what you're lining up is the names on your document and then the name here, so you're applying the correct template to it. Does that kind of make sense? So this is your actual documents, and then this is just your templates.
So Sarah, I think I'm understanding Chris's question correctly. I think what you mean is the one on the right, when you say template, it's not, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's not template of information that's been loaded, but rather the template of where the signatures are going to be positioned.
Exactly, yeah. So these are your signature templates. Sorry, I should have said that.
Okay, so really the document on the left and the template on the right, otherwise they have all the same information. It's just the one on the right shows where the signatures are going to go based on what groups you put in there and what order you put them in.
Right, yeah, so you have, yeah, exactly, your filled out document, your completed document on the left, and then this is just saying, okay, so this is a lead-based paint, and this is where the signatures need to go for lead-based paint, one buyer.
So when you pull the document up and put it on the right-hand side, it's going to populate with all of the information that's in the document on the left-hand side?
Right, yep, so left-hand side is the actual document itself, right is signatures, and they kind of blend together on the last screen right before you hit send, so you can see the actual document and where the signatures are going to go.
Okay, so the one on the right will automatically populate with all the information that's on the left.
Exactly, yep.
Okay, thank
you. Yeah, no problem. All right, I'm going to uncheck these guys and just stick with my lead-based paint. And then I do want to point out, oh, go ahead. Did someone have a question?
I'm sorry, I had my microphone on, I didn't mean to. But actually, while it's here, I actually reached up to just turn it on. I thought of another question before we move on from there, Sarah.
Yeah.
When the writable part that you were explaining, where someone can write in some information, there are forms that I frequently have to have information entered, but I don't want my client to enter it.
Okay.
Because they're not going to do it the way it needs to be done. So I've been using DigiSign. So maybe you can, what I typically do is I take the first person who's going to sign it and I create a text box, or here what you would call a writable box, and assign it to that first person that's going to be signing it, even though I'm not going to sign it until the end. So on that writable, when we put that writable box there, can we actually enter the information that goes in there?
Yeah, and so
under the name of the person who's signing it first.
So it wouldn't go underneath the person who's signing it. It would still have to be you. And so when we get to the next example where we're doing like a price change, you're going to be the one that's actually making the price change, and then you're going to have your client's initial and sign off on that. And so
okay, maybe similar. Okay.
Yeah. But no, there's definitely a way that you can kind of work around it. You just have to get, when you're doing a custom one like that, a little creative with it.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. Any other questions before I continue? I just want to make sure everyone is kind of on the same page. Good? Okay. All right, so we have our Bobby buyer. He's just our single buyer on this lead-based paint document. If for whatever reason you needed to add anybody on here, you can always hit new recipient. You put in their name, their email address, and it gives you the option to select their role as well. So a lot of the time some agents will put like an attorney or a loan officer if they're putting in a contract, just so they can get a copy of the contract as well. And then you have the option down here of, rather than needing to sign, would just receive a copy. And so they would, if you do receives copy, they would only receive the final completely signed document once all parties have signed it. And it just sends it automatically once everyone is signed in a PDF format. So for this one, since it's just lead-based paint, I'm just going to leave it with just Bobby signing it, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And so again, we're just going to review our document here for signatures. And so we have Bobby Buyer signing off on the lead-based paint, and his signature and date and time stamp on the last page. So if this looks good, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit send. And then again, you have the option of editing this if you want to. Most of the times I'm just going to hit send because it kind of speaks for itself. All right, so now that we've sent 2 documents, we can go back into our sent section here. And so you can see, please sign. We have the one that we just sent out. You can edit or resend the envelope here. So maybe I need to send it to a different email address. You can change this email address here and hit resend, or you can jump into the actual signature section and correct the envelope. So maybe you missed a signature spot or you wanted to change something. You can hit correct envelope here and update those signature or writable formats. And then just hit update when you're ready to. If for whatever reason you sent something and you totally just need to void the document, there's a little void option here as well. And then other than that, so once these are completed, I wanted to show you guys, here it is, perfect. So this is what it's gonna look like when the email comes through. So it's gonna say, please sign, Bobby Buyer, please sign, Training Sarah, which is my fake account, has sent you a document to sign. So I'm just gonna hit review and sign as if I'm Bobby Buyer. And then it allows me to choose my font. I'm going to hit I agree, and then I'm just going to click and walk through the document. So I'm going to hit the start button, and then I just click on the actual initial or signature boxes, and I'm all done. And so once I submit that, I can download a PDF if I wanted to. And then of course the agent and everyone is going to be notified. Oops, where'd my document go? There we go. Of course, the agent and everyone is going to be notified that that document has been signed. And so now if I go in here and I refresh, my Bobby Buyer one is now moved over to the completed section. And then again, because we linked this document to an active file in SkySlope, this copy of the document itself is going to be sitting in my documents section of that transaction. Is everyone comfortable where the document section is, or do you want me to show you what that looks like real quick? I can show you real quick. I think it was. Okay, so I'm just going to pull up my transaction, and then if you notice here under the documents list, I have my lead-based paint document. And so they stick it here just so that you can have a second to review it one last time. And then once you're ready, you can select that document and just hit assign, and then tell it which checklist item that you want to move it to. So for this one, let's see, lead-based paint. There we go. And assign. And so really quickly, going back to our checklist, we now have that document under our lead-based paint checklist item. Does that all make sense? Okay, so I'm gonna hit this logo and get back to the main screen. When I was speaking earlier about unlinked documents, working documents is the section that anything that doesn't have a home in SkySlope. So any time that you send out, like the buyer's agency that we sent out earlier, I don't have an active file for that in SkySlope yet because I haven't gone under contract on anything. So every time that I send something out through DigiSign with a no property, it's going to just stick that document here in my working docs, and it's just going to sit right here under my personal documents section. And so you can, as you noticed to the left, I've done this before, you can actually create folders. And so maybe Bob Buyer, he signed his buyer's agency, and then he's continuing to make offers on homes that just aren't getting accepted. So if he has 3 or 4 offers that he sent out that I want to hold on to those documents, you can essentially come into this section and move them over to his folder. And you can create folders for your clients or your buyers or whomever just by hitting this add folder button, and then you can label it Bob Buyer or your client's name or whatever it is, and then just move those documents. That way that your kind of personal docs inbox here is not going to get totally bogged down. You're still going to be able to maintain some sort of organization with everything. Alrighty. All right, so I'm going to go back to DigiSign, and we're going to walk through just one last example. And this one is, so Candy, hopefully we'll answer your questions, but if not, let me know. This one essentially is going to be like a totally custom envelope. And so what that means is maybe we've sent out the offer to purchase, and then we need to make an adjustment to the price, for example, or it's a listing and you need to make a change to the listing price, whatever it may be. What you're going to do, of course, starting off is hit new envelope. And then you have the option again of selecting and linking this to an active transaction. I think for this one, we'll maybe just link it. And then you have the option of either selecting something that's already in your file or uploading something completely different. So I'm actually going to start by making a change to my listing agreement. So I'm going to select listing agreement. And then since I'm doing a totally custom one, I am not going to select a template here this time. I'm going to go in and add my different signature spots and my changes to my document rather than choosing a template. So as long as I have my document selected here, I'm just going to skip the template part and hit next. And then because I didn't choose a template, I do have to go in and say, okay, I'm going to sign this document as the agent. And I also need my seller to sign this document because they're going to approve the changes that I'm making. If for whatever reason anyone that's not on here needs to be signing, of course, you just go up to new recipient, add in their name, their role, and then if they need to sign as well. So for this one, I'm just going to leave it as me, and it looks like Al. And for this time, since I'm going to be the one making the changes on the document, I actually want to sign it first. So I'm going to hit add signer group, and I am going to drag Al down here to sign second, because I'm going to make the changes to the price, and then Al, as my client, is going to sign off on those changes. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to hit next, and it's going to bring me to the document itself. Hopefully this has a price on it. No, this is not a... Nope. Give me 1 second. Okay, this is a bad example. So let me go back and I'll just add in a different document real quick so that we can actually see what it looks like to make a price change. All right. So I'm going to download this offer to purchase that I know has a price on it because I wrote it out earlier. All right. And I'm just going to jump back to the document section and click and drag this document in here. And again, still skipping the template section because I'm going to do my own signatures. So I'm going to hit next. I still have myself, I still have Al on here, and then it kept my signing order as well. So I have myself, Al signing second, and then hit next. Okay. This looks way better. So what I'm going to do now, so let's say this document has already been signed, and we actually want to change the price from 500,000 to 510,000 for whatever reason. So this is where I'm going to come in and I'm going to hit this writable section. And then I'm going to click over the text itself. And I'm actually going to readjust it just so that it looks nice and clean. And what I'm going to do, again, making sure that you as the agent are signing this part, is I'm actually just going to put or X's. That looks a little bit better. X's through the price. And you can rearrange it however you need to so that it looks good. And then I'm going to again do another writable section right above it that's going to include the new price point. And of course there is a form for this, but this is just an example. So you can make this type of change to whatever you need to. So I put the new price point, I have my name here, and then what I need next is to have my client essentially sign off on this change. So I'm going to click on the initial section, click initial, and then this is where I have to make sure that this is Al signing it. And just in case we have any questions on it, I'm going to put a date and time stamp right next to his signature as well. And it's already on him, so I can just leave that. So what I've done is myself as the agent has come in, crossed out the price, put in my new price, or whatever change it is, crossed out the original and put in my new, and then I've had my client sign and date that this change is accepted. And so other than that, I'm not making any other changes. I'm not requiring any other signatures to this document. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And I'm going to put, please sign. Oh, goodness. Can't type today. Please sign price change. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit send. Does anyone have any questions on how I did that or why I did that in that specific order?
No question on how you did it, but once it's done, then is the 510 going to go in where all the X's are?
So it doesn't replace it just because you originally filled that out in zip forms. So that's why I usually do two different writable sections. And so you use one to kind of cross it out and then one to kind of at least give it somewhat of a cleaner look with the new price point on there.
I guess my question, Sarah, is once it's signed by Al, is the documents still going to have the X's and the 510 sitting up above it like that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it'll then still look like something got changed.
Yes. Yeah. So some agents prefer to do it this way just so that they can see the original contract, the date and timestamps on that, and then the date and timestamp for the change that they're making. If you don't like this look, like if you want it to look a little cleaner, I think there are addendums and things like that that you can use instead.
And to this point, also, Chris, since she's doing it on an offer to purchase and contract, this is a change that would also have to be initialed by the other party before it's final. It's just a way of showing it and tracking it and having it being initialed and dated by everybody to show that they agree on the change in terms.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. And so if you notice, oh, go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt your thought.
No,
I was wondering how read only fits into this. Does this have anything to do with what you're doing also?
So read only, to be honest, I don't know anyone that's using that. I think that's if you're sending essentially like a sample of the contract. So if you just wanted them to read it, but not, and like kind of sign off that they have read it, that would be what the read only is, but there's no signatures essentially required for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, So once you hit send, since we put ourselves as the first party to sign, it's going to give us the option to sign now. So you definitely want to do that because, again, it's going to hold up your client receiving this document. And obviously, you want to be the one to go in and approve the 510 and any changes that you're making. So I'm going to hit sign now. It's going to look just like the email that I just showed you. You pick your font, agree, and hit start. And so again, it gives you the option if for whatever reason you need to change that, but if it looks good, you hit next, and then that looks good, you hit next, and you are done. So once you submit this, it brings you back to the DigiSign home screen, and you can go back and look and see you have the price change. It has been signed by myself, the agent, and now I'm just waiting for my client to approve that. And so to Candy's point, essentially you could just take this final document, and then once you receive it signed by your client, just forward that off to the other agent or whatever you need to do with it. So any other questions on DigiSign? I'm going to go back to the completed screen just so you guys can see it. So we kind of walked through an unlinked document, meaning that it's not linked to a transaction in SkySlope yet. You can still use DigiSign just the same. And then we walked through linking a document to an active file in SkySlope and kind of what that looks like and how to kind of move that signed document to your checklist. And then we also did a custom DigiSign envelope for any changes or anything that you need to make. But other than that, that's DigiSign. Any questions or anything I can answer or kind of explain a little bit more?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Sometimes when you use a template and it decides like bring the buyers or whatever, it doesn't, even if you have the parties defined and their emails and their names are there, it doesn't bring that up. You have to type them again. I mean, it's a minor thing, but it's painful. Is there a way around that?
So on some of them, when you're not linking it to like an active transaction in SkySlope, you will have to type it in. I have been told by some people that if you, so let me pull up, I'll just show you guys real quick.
Let me keep my light on.
So if you go into this section, so like for example, since I didn't link it to anything, if you hit new recipient, I have been told that if you start typing here, which granted I have this autofill thing on my computer, so it's annoying.
It does work, but then it won't bring the signatures in the right place. When you put the recipient after, in the template, it doesn't put the signatures where they should go. So right now you choose one or the other. If it brings the, it shows where the signatures are gonna be, you have to type the name and the email address. If you choose it this way, it won't put the signatures where they should be.
Okay, so maybe it has something to do with the template then, if they're not going in the correct spot?
It would be every template. I had that problem with every template. So I have to choose, yeah, no big deal. I just thought maybe there was a way around that.
Yeah, no, the only workaround I've heard is that if you kind of click into something and try to edit it, well, of course this isn't gonna let me, but.
Yeah, you have to put them manually.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Well, that's okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Oh wait, I see some chats. So Anlet is asking, she is a closing coordinator for a team. If I'm sending a document for an agent on the team, will the DigiSign distinguish between each agent or does it default to the team lead? So, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding this. So Anlet, if you're sending it from your account, you will have to type in whatever agent that you're wanting to sign the document. So on yours, rather than it being me, you would want to hit new recipient and add in an agent. That, or you could log into your agent's accounts and send the document as them, and then it might work a little bit smoother. And let me know, you can email me offline if that's not exactly what you're asking. And then Deb asked, is it possible to adjust the preloaded templates? Deb, are you referring to the signature templates that are already uploaded for you? Because yes, I can adjust those templates. So if anybody notices anything wrong with them, please let me know, because we're doing them all by hand. Or if there's any documents that are not in the templates that you guys really want, please email me, especially during quarantine. I would be happy to add those in there for you. They're all individually added. So please, if you notice anything that you want in there, let me know. Let's see. Okay, so Laura asked, if we send a document before we create the transaction, how do we go back later to find and assign those completed documents, and instead of having to download them to my computer first? So it's very simple. So that's where your working documents is going to come into play. So let me add something real quick and see if I can sign it that will go over into working docs, just so you guys can see what that looks like. So give me just a moment. And Candy, this will answer your question. So how to link my envelope or my DigiSign document to an active transaction. Just on that first screen after hitting new envelope, you would just select whichever transaction you're linking it to. So, but for Laura's example, I'm going to hit no property. And so I'm going to upload, oops, sorry, I'll just drag and drop this one. I'm going to drag and drop my offer to purchase. I'm going to choose my template. Offer, one buyer, oops, that's lot and land. One buyer, it's up at the top. Done. Next. And then I'm going to put in my okay. And I'm just going to hit send for time's sake. All right, give me 1 second to sign this on my personal email, and I will show you guys what this looks like. Okay. Sorry, bear with me 1 moment, guys. So many signature spots. Okay. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and sent myself a document, and I did not link it to any property in SkySlope, just so you guys could see what that looks like. So I just want to make sure that this has been completed. Perfect. So to answer Laura's question, or to recap, so she essentially asked, when we are sending out a document that does not have a home in SkySlope, meaning we have not created a listing for it, we have not created a buyer transaction for it, so there's nowhere to really store those documents. What do you do with them? So you can still send them out through DigiSign, just like normal. Essentially, once they're signed and completed, you'll obviously get an email with a PDF copy of it, but you will also be able to go into working documents. And that document that you're sending, or documents, you'll have a whole list here if you send multiple, is just going to sit right here, and I can preview it if I need to, just to make sure this is the correct one. So I have my offer to purchase. I just signed it down here. So that looks good. And so essentially what you can do is, if you just have a few documents, feel free to just leave it right here in kind of a list format, but you can click this document, and you can either move it to one of your folders that you've created. So these are your folders here on the left. So maybe I had like multiple offers in my buyer's agency when we were giving the Bobby buyer example. So if I wanted to move it into Bob's file folder over here, I could. But maybe I just want to keep this one here and then move it over to my active file once it's open. So I click my document, I hit assign, and then what it's going to do is it's going to pull up a list of all of my active transactions right now. And so to show you guys that one more time, I select the document, and if you have multiple, you can select all of them at the same time. And then I'm just going to hit assign, and I'm going to move that over to my share and view road that I was just working on. So I'm going to hit assign, and then it moves it from my working documents over to my share and view road location, or transaction, I should say. Does that make sense? You can see where it is. So if I pull up 5424 share and view road, and then again, it's not going to auto assign it to your checklist just as it wants you to verify it first, but it is going to stick it right over here in my document section. And I have my offer to purchase that I just moved over. So again, I can select and assign and then put it on my checklist. Does that make sense? Perfect. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to go back to my home screen. Okay. Deb, let me know if I did not answer your questions on templates. Candy, can we add a signature spot or writable section or something like that when we are actively using the templates? Yes, definitely. So what you would want to do is most of the time, the templates are just going to be kind of your standard. So you would apply your template like normal, walk through the process until you're right at that end screen where you're reviewing the document in the signature spots. And then at that point, you can add in any signatures or writable sections or date and time stamps, anything that you want to that document. The template is really there to kind of cover the bases as far as the initials at the bottom of the page and the signatures at the end. Alrighty.
Sarah.
Yeah.
I just thought of one other question. When we're doing the a listing agreement or a buyer agency agreement, and we come to the agency section, where there are going to be 3 different potential areas to initial, and they're not going to initial all 3. How does that work in DigiSign?
Yeah, so essentially what we have placed is an initial spot or 2 initials depending on how many people are signing it. We've assigned those, I believe, to the first section just from the feedback that I received. Hold on, I can try to pull up a listing agreement for us to look at. So in the template, we assigned a signatures box to, sorry, I know this scrolls really fast. There we go. So we applied a signature box to this first section, and then we left out, I believe, signatures here and here. And so just from the feedback, I think that's what most people were having them sign off on anyways, the sellers sign off on. So for whatever reason, if you don't need a signature box in this first section, you can actually click and drag it down to this section, or you can add additional signature or initial spots when you're kind of reviewing the document before you send out. Because I think it's the same way on the buyer's agency as well. Whatever the first one is, we have the initial box there, but you can click and drag or add additional if you need to.
So, Sarah, are you just saying that the first box under D is the default position for the signatures?
Yes, so I think because originally we had all 3, and then we got feedback from the agents that most of the time this applies, more often. And so we just eliminated the other 2 and put the 1 signature box under this section. under D. But if that doesn't apply to that transaction, you're more than welcome to just click and drag that signature box to a different section or to just clear it out, whatever you need to do.
Well, you wouldn't want to, I mean, I don't think you'd want to clear it out, would you? Because you want.
And then you have to have something signed. I think
Yeah,
this is the one that most people had.
You want at least one of those boxes checked, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? All righty.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much. And we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to do an Instagram workshop. So that one should be a little bit more lively, hopefully a little more fun. But just wanted to be able to cover this stuff with you guys since everyone is kind of transitioning to working remotely or doing everything over the computer now. So if you have any questions, feel free to mess around with DigiSign. If you want to send me, fake documents or whatever, just so you can practice, totally fine. But just let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully this was helpful.
I have one, you prompted one final question. I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, it's
So
okay.
I've heard that a number of times, just go in and play around and use fake documents. How do people know they're fake?
So as far as like creating transactions in SkySlope, I would just name it something obvious, like 123 testing street or training street. That's what I always do. And I know Angie gets all of my notifications for uploading stuff, and then she'll just delete them once she kind of can tell that I'm not messing around with it anymore. So just, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Obvious. All right. Well, thank you guys. Happy Monday. And I will see you guys later this week.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, guys. Bye.